Well, it's been so much fun being on this journey with you, and you've been working so hard in all the sessions that we've been having. I think dialogue is the way for us to evolve our culture. We need to create a healing environment. So, what is dialogue and how does it work? Here's a picture of the staff working, 215 of them, and you can see they're all very engaged. There's no leader. Can you notice there's no leader? There's no leader in each of these groups. They're all equal voices, and they know how to talk with each other. They know how to listen to each other, and they know how to oppose each other, and they know how to suspend and kind of see what's happening. They can get on the balcony. And remember what they do after they work in their small groups, or they work in this prison or that prison, or this probation officer or that probation office. You've got to bring the whole thing together, all 12,000 staff, not just the frontline service staff with the clients, administrative staff, leadership staff, professionals, the whole set of staff. This is what they do. They come together as a single unity because they're after the whole. They're not after the parts. So if we want to dig down into dialogue, let's dig down a little bit into that. What is this notion of dialogue? There are different kinds of conversation that we have. You have the kitchen table conversation in the morning. You have the conversation with your neighbors. You have the conversation with your accountant and your tax consultant. And then you have dialogue. So a lot of conversation is about discussion and debating. And the root of the word discussion comes from percussion, concussion. And it means actually to break things apart. And that's what we need to do when we're building a skyscraper. You need to break all the things apart to know how it all fits. The problem when you break things apart is, though, that somebody's voice is going to win out, because it's like a ping pong match. You're having a meeting, you're having a discussion. No, this is what I think. No, this is the way it is. And you're moving back and forward to get the right answer, because you need to get the right answer. That's discussion. That's fine. A dialogue is different. The root of the word dialogue means dialogos. It means through meaning. So in a dialogue, if the image of a discussion is like a ping pong match, a dialogue is more like a river. You're all in a river and you're being carried forward by the river because new meaning is emerging. You go into a dialogue when you don't know the answer. So you can't be arguing for your position. You're going in to learn something new with the collective, with your colleagues, because this is about the whole system. So you need your colleagues and you need to hear what the wisdom of the group is. In the collective is the answer. That's the difference between dialogue and discussion. Now, there are 3 conditions for dialogue that are important to know about. Here's the first one: psychological safety. You can't have a dialogue if people are not safe to speak their mind. This is a tricky one. We try and find people who are doing bad things and we say, bad, that's wrong. So we're trained almost. We think punishment is going to do it. It doesn't make people feel safe when you're trying to catch what they're doing wrong, and they know that you're going to punish them if you do. Safety is a different concept. You've got to create a conditions of safety where I feel if I speak my mind, nobody's going to laugh at me in the meeting. They're going to respect my voice. So psychological safety, you have to work at it. The second condition is equal voices. This is very important. This is from the Google study. Google does a lot of work with teams, and they found these 2 things make for really effective teams: safety and equal voices. At the end of a meeting, when people have been on an effective team, everybody on that team has spoken about the same amount, including the extroverts and the introverts. So the extroverts who want to talk, they have to learn how to lean back a little bit to make room for the introverts. And the introverts who like to be quiet, they have to lean in because their voice is needed as well. So equal voices and safety. And the third thing is this: the ability to suspend assumptions. We're making assumptions about the way reality is. We have an assumption in corrections in America. We need solitary confinement. Is it true? Maybe it's not true. Why, if Germany doesn't need it, if Norway doesn't need it, why do we need it? Other systems don't need it. There's something about it that we're making an assumption about that is probably not correct. So looking at assumptions. How do you do that? There are 4 actions in a dialogue that you want to take note of. This is what happens in all conversations. The first thing you're going to see is somebody's going to make a move. And I apologize, all these stick figures are male figures, so I'm working on, I need a good illustrator to make some female figures for me, but we're working on that. But the first thing is a move. What you do when you make a move is you start the action. You're at a meeting, you say, hey, listen, we've been talking for 2 hours, let's take a break, let's go to lunch. That's a move, right? So you're initiating something new, you're speaking. When you have a move, you need this, you need somebody to follow. Oh, I like that idea, right? Because if you just make a move and nobody pays any attention, the move dies. When you have a person who's able to pick up, listen, I like that idea, it's more likely that it's going to be completed. So movers initiate, followers complete. Next thing you need is this. You need somebody to oppose. Now, wait now, what do you mean oppose? We're tired of opposers. They're not team players. We don't want opposers around. We want to get things done. We should all be thinking the same way. Not so fast. The problem with movers and followers is they tend to fall in love with each other. Oh, great idea. I love it. Let's do it. And it is a good idea, but they're missing something, so they're heading off together over the cliff. The person who's a good opposer can see that. Oh my gosh, they're heading over the cliff. I need to help them. Just if they just move a little bit, they'll be fine. So what the opposers do is they correct the action. They can see what's missing and they can say, listen, I love your move and I love the follow. I see where you're going, but you need to turn a little bit or else you're going to get into trouble. And here's what I'd suggest you do. So you see, an oppose is really critical and we have to get that voice out. But again, we train that out of our people. We train the opposing voice out because we think chain of command, we're supposed to all speak the same way. You need the opposing voice. The fourth move is the bystand. This is the quieter people in the meeting. This is the quieter people who are kind of sitting back. There's a move, there's a follow, there's an oppose. It's all going on in the meeting. And the people who are good at bystanding, they're able to see the patterns. And they see, oh, look, there are 6 of us in this meeting, and this is the 3rd time we've met. And only the men are speaking. The women are quiet. 3 women, 3 men, the men are dominating. So if they can hold that up, hey, do you notice what's happening in the room? For some reason, we've got into a pattern where the men speak and the women listen, or vice versa. It could be whatever it is. When you hold up something like that, you're suspending so the team can see it, and that's where you get the change in patterns. So the move is about voicing. It's about your authentic voice, and everybody in the agency has a voice. Everybody in the agency knows something that somebody else doesn't. Then the follow is about listening, how to listen deeply to each other. In Virginia, talking to a superintendent out there, what was the difference dialogue made in your life? He said, I'm used to making decisions. I used to have my team around me and I wasn't listening. I was making decisions. People would say something, but I knew I was just making the decision. Now I listen. And he says, it's wonderful. I don't have to work so hard. There's so much wisdom in the group that I didn't really realize. So voicing, listening, then respecting. How can you oppose? Think about it. I don't agree with that person. And then you say, oh, but that person probably knows something more than I know. So I'm going to tell them I don't agree with them. I can tell them what I think they're missing, but I want to learn what they know as well. Suddenly I'm respecting as I'm opposing. And then finally with the bystanding, it's that suspending thing that we talked about. So the suspending thing, let me talk a little bit about that because what they notice are patterns. And every team, once you get into a meeting, after about 10 minutes, you'll have a pattern. You'll have a pattern how you talk at home. You'll have a pattern about how you talk with your friends. You'll have a pattern about every group that you're in. It'll be different depending on the context. The way to change the pattern is to suspend it. And let me show you one pattern that we've discovered time and time and time again in teams that work in corrections. So there's this concept, take a look at this slide. There's this concept about when you're at a meeting, are you the kind of person who wants to get things done? Okay, what are we going to do? The time is clicking. Let's get a decision here. Let's go and make something happen. They're the people who understand power. They want to hit the target and they move agencies forward. They're wonderful because they move agencies forward. That's one kind of person. Another kind of person understands meaning more. They're more the thinkers, right? We don't want to act too soon. We better understand what we're talking about first. How do you work this assessment? How does this work? And they want to know why. You see, it's a different energy. This is the doing energy. This is the thinking energy. And then there's a third energy, the feeling energy. You'll have people in the team who are feeling, they're wondering about, well, how is this going to affect our staff? How am I feeling at the moment? How's everybody in the room feeling? 3 different energies, right? So in this team, this was a team of 9 people. This is what we found. There's an assessment. You can do this. Remember, decision support data systems. 5 of the people on this team were really good in the affect realm. 2 were really good in power and 2 were good in meaning. You think, okay, well, this team is going to be very good in affect. When you took a look at their practice, what did they use in actual practice? This is what they used. Here's how much they used power, meaning, and affect. Almost the reverse of the strengths that were on the team. They all gravitated to the power language and do. They spent their time doing, never talked about feelings, never really understood what they were doing. This is just one example of a pattern that dialogue can help you see. And once you see the pattern, you can change. Again, the adaptive change is not about doing things, building the skyscraper out of us. The adaptive change is about us changing. It's about coming up with a different way of looking, a new way of seeing, so new things can happen. And in the last video of this session, we'll delve deeper into what goes on in our minds as we're thinking about new approaches.